So I did a couple touch-ups after watching some more videos of the makeup, and also realized I was saying her name wrong the entire time for what you're gonna see going forward. Um, so I was saying Rhea Ripley because I don't watch wrestling because I'm an ass, and I want to, but I always forget to do it. So, which sounds like a bullshit excuse, but it's true. I've got brain damage, so fuck off. But Ripley, Rhea Ripley. I I hope she comes to collect the toll. Um, any way that she wants to collect the toll of me saying her name incorrectly, I will gladly accept. And that's just the price I'm gonna have to pay. Um, I don't care how it has to happen. In fact, I'm actually doubling down on the fact that I said it wrong, and I no, I said it right. I said it right the whole time. I said it right the whole time. And anyone who has a name similar to that, who's in the WWE, who wants to come collect the toll of saying a name potentially wrong, can find me at the address that that I will gladly give them. I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. You all have to deal with this. But yeah, I was saying her name wrong the whole time. It's Rhea, not Rhea. That's my bad. But she can still come over. She's still invited. Um, we'll find something to do. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to do a makeup look that has me so inspired, so electric with just like, I got it. I had to do this makeup look as soon as I saw it. Um, I saw Rhea Ripley's Night of Champions makeup look and I was like, that's badass. And also she's so hot. Like she's a regulation hottie. We all know it. So I'm gonna try a couple things that I have never done before in this look, and we'll see how well they work out. One of the things I'm going to do is she's got great skin, great everything that I've seen thus far. And I don't, especially because I had to shave for this look, which kind of aggravated and pissed off my face even more than it was already pissed off. So I'm actually going to try the glass skin effect that people use, where they had a peel off mask and that smooth out their skin. However, I'm going to be using it under my makeup. I'm going to be watering it down and just using it on my cheek area and ending it in areas that are a little bit more inconspicuous. I'm not going to be doing a full face of it, and I'm not going to be um, doing it over my makeup. I'm going to be doing it before I apply makeup. So we'll see how that works. And if it doesn't, this will never see the light of day. Or it will, and we'll just laugh about it. So I mixed a little bit of the mask with some water. And I'm just going to put this on my face with the little tool that is provided. It's a little silicone tool. I'm just applying a really thin layer, and I did apply more water than I think I probably needed, just because I wanted, I'm not going for non-skin like texture. I'm just trying to even out my crazy amount of texture, so that it doesn't look terrible. So see, it just has like a little bit of that sheen, um, and yeah, like right, I was breaking out like right at the edge of my mustache, and shaving that off was not fun. But the things we do for beauty, right? Now, I didn't watch the Night of Champions um And honestly, I've never really watched much wrestling. I watched, you know, growing up in the 90s, it was kind of impossible to not watch, you know, The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin, um, here and there at the very least. But my family just was never a big wrestling family. It's always been one of those things that I was like, this would be really cool to watch as an adult. I feel like I would love watching wrestling. Um, but I just haven't. I always forget that I want to watch it until something like this happens, like a big event, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I should watch that, and then I forget because I forget everything. So it might look like I'm putting barely anything on my skin, which I hope is the case. I'm not sure how well this is going to smooth out my skin, or how well makeup is going to adhere to the top of it. So we're going to have to see once it's dry. Now I'm going to be Now I already put it a little bit on the edge of my mustache area here, but anywhere that I naturally crease, that's going to look very apparent as I move my face because the mask is going to start detaching from my face, even though it is very watered down, and I don't want the edges to pull up. So I'm going to try to avoid those areas as much as possible and keep anything that might potentially have like a little bit of a seam under where the rest of the makeup underwear um under where the rest of the makeup would cover because she's got this big eye makeup that we're going to be doing. Now this is definitely not an everyday makeup type of application if we're using this and if it works. If you are planning on doing this all over your face, make sure you block your brows or put something down over your brows that will keep this from sticking. I imagine it will take hairs as any pull off or peel off mask that I've ever used has done something like that. So I think that that is good enough. This side is dry. It does feel smoother already. Did I miss this spot in shaving too? Rude. I have a lot of texture underneath my chin, but we can only do so much. Like, this is only going to solve so many problems that we're facing today. So I think that with that amount of application, I could put a little bit on my forehead, but I don't want it to wrinkle or pull up when I move my eyebrows, which is going to happen. I'm very expressive. So I think that this is good coverage, and we're going to make sure that this dries fully before we apply any makeup, and we'll see how it works. Okay, so now that everything is dry, I added a little bit to my nose because I was like, yeah, let's try it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of primer so that my foundation and concealer are kind of sticking evenly to all parts of my face, whether I put the mask on it or not. So I'm going to use, I think I'm going to use my MAC primer first, even though I'm not too worried about shine in places that I put the mask because that's pretty much sealing in any oils from my skin. I do like putting it on my forehead. Like I said, I put some on my nose, and then I did put a little bit of the mask on my chin, but I mostly put it around, if I recall correctly. So just pressing it in, boop, 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 boop. And then I'm going to use my Smashbox. I'm going to use a little bit of that as I do. Thin layer. because otherwise I could really see that being a slip and slide. And there's a little bit of a textural difference before I put all the primers on with the mask, but because I watered down the mask so much, it's not as like distinct and like taut as like when people were first starting to do the Pat McGrath like doll makeup, where it was a lot uh, a lot more of the mask in the proportion of mask per uh, mask against water. So I really just thinned it out, hoping that it would reduce the sheer amount of texture that I have going on out here, but not look like, you know, again, not like skin. I don't know what this one hair is just deciding to be straight while the rest of my hair is curly. Those aren't hairs, those are from my ceiling fan. Okay, so we're going to let the mask kind of settle into areas where I do put it on top of skin, and it's not going to seep into, in theory, shouldn't be seeping into the place where the mask is, but hopefully it'll just kind of settle nicely and keep things from moving around. Uh, this is just a big experiment, so we'll see. But let's let that soak in, and then I don't know why I'm so like, I'm just excited to get into makeup. I know I'm doing that. So let's let that soak in, and then we'll get to concealer and foundation. Okay, so I'm going to apply my concealer first. So I'm going to spot conceal. So if you are trying to do this look and you normally do any concealer around your eyes, I would suggest just skipping that whole part because there's so much eye makeup that goes underneath the eyes that there's not really a reason to. If you really want to do it, you can, but I don't think there's a whole lot of need for that. You do you, you know, just makeup. Now, her foundation is it appears to be lighter. Her makeup for Night of Champions seemed to be lighter than I've ever seen her makeup. It usually looks like maybe 2 shades darker, but it looked like she was going like her makeup artist or like they were going for high contrast. So it looks like foundation was pretty light in color. So I'm going to also do my makeup a little bit lighter than normal. Now, you might be looking at me going, is that possible? Can you be lighter than you are? The answer is barely, but it's possible. So I am going to mix one of my foundation mixers into my usual foundation, which will make it basically off-white. I'm very, very pale. We can kind of see right there where there might be a little bit of that. If I was when I was covering that uh, part at the end of my mustache where I was applying the mask, where there might be a little bit of a line of demarcation. It's just something to keep in mind. But if hopefully this will help the foundation sit on it a little bit more evenly. So that covered up most of the discoloration from my acne. So let's put some foundation on. Okay, so I'm going to take my normal foundation, which is the Milani 2-in-1 Conceal Perfect, and I'm in the color 00A. Like I said, I am very, very fair. I'm a little darker right now, with being in the sun just a little bit more. but I'm going to be adding the white foundation mixer. So this is the LA Girl Pro Color Foundation Mixing Pigment. They have four of these. They have the white, the blue, the yellow, and um, I think an orange. So it's great if you like altering your or have a need to alter the pigment of your foundations frequently. For me, the white was a necessity for my own self, just because I um I have a hard time finding my own foundation color. And the blue is good for neutralizing orange if you find that you have a hard time finding your foundation color that's not overly warm. The orange neutralizes cool tones, so if you need a warmer tone. And then the yellow brightens. I think it's a yellow that they have, like a mustard yellow. So I'm just mixing them on the back of my hand and then stamping this around my face. You can see it's pretty light. But is it that much lighter than the rest of my body? No. Just so sad. Now, it's not great to use just by itself. It, it's good. It's not going to give you like the full foundation fantasy if you just use the white or any of the other mixing pigments, because they're made to kind of complement formulas of uh, other foundations. Uh, so if you're looking for an actual white foundation, there's creams like Clown White and stuff like that. But then there's also companies that are coming out with white foundations. Um, I know Sunset Makeup has one that looks amazing and is very surprisingly affordable for an indie company. I think Glisten Cosmetics has a bunch of different colors as well. Sunset has a full array of colors as well. I just know that I've used some Sunset makeup products, and they've pretty much all been winners for me. So that's why I spoke about that first. Now, when you're doing your makeup, including your ears does make a big difference, especially when you're going a color that's not quite the color of your face. It makes a huge difference. And when you're doing makeup for like a wedding or something, if you don't do makeup, if you don't put a little bit of foundation on the ears, you're gonna notice it in the pictures, and you're gonna be like, "Wow, how'd I miss that one?" Let's see. So if I'm looking close at the makeup, I feel like in the camera it doesn't look as bad. It doesn't look bad where I put the mask. It just you can still see quite a bit of texture, but not it did kind of smooth out a little bit of the texture. So you probably play with the ratio and get exactly what you want. If you have your nose pierced like I do, getting around all those piercings. Now, pretty much all of this area is going to be covered, but I just like to have that um, uh, in there just in case something were to peek through. And I don't really need this extra. I have a little bit of extra foundation, so I'll put it on areas that I tend to lose pigment a little bit faster in my wear. Then and because we did the concealer underneath, a lot of my makeup, my foundation didn't have to do a lot of work, and I didn't have to do a lot of layers on places where I have places that would need extra coverage. So now that we have that done, I'm actually going to do brows next, which is not my usual go-to, but because her eyebrows are standouts, I want to make sure that I give them all the love and attention that they need and carve them out. Um, Probably end up carving them out. I don't always love doing that. I don't usually love doing it, but sometimes it's part of the look. And her brows stand out significantly. Now, her hair is black. My hair is partially black, depending on where you're looking at it. But the focal part of it is yellow, so I'm not. It's not gonna quite have the same impact, and it's gonna look a little crazy on me. I don't think I'm gonna go as dark as she went, but I still will have high contrast brows. So let's get to brows next. Okay, so I'm going to start by lining my brows with a liner. I'm going to take the other end of this pencil and just brush through, kind of get the shape going. And this one is where I'm going to put a little slash through my brow, I think. Yeah, because this one's thicker, although the shape is fugglier. I don't know, it would, yeah, because hers is like her think, yeah, her dash is like a little bit further in. So I think I can, yeah, we can make that work. So this isn't quite the color I want, but it's good enough to start out with. Okay, so we're gonna kind of keep that where it is for now. Okay. I look so white. I looked up and I was like, oh my gosh, jump scare on myself. So I'm gonna use a liner brush and the espresso color. This is liquid. This is how dark that color is. I have a couple different colors just to keep in my kit because this is a little bit easier to keep. Gonna make that slash a little bit. Actually, it's not, I think it's like that direction, right? I'm asking like you can respond in real time. Okay, so that's what I did with that brow. It's still fairly dark, which is what I wanted. But uh, but it's not quite the like almost black that it looks like she has. And part of that is because of how light her foundation is. So you get that high contrast. So even though I'm not doing like mine is a dark brown, it looks really dark because I'm so uh, fair in my foundation right now and as a person. Okay, I think with everything else going on, they'll be even enough, and they're pretty even. I am going to put a little bit of my concealer right there so that um, so that it'll be a little bit more stark. Because I'm not going to shave a dash into my brow. Not today, at least. Okay, good enough. I'm happy enough with this. I'm going to put some eyeshadow primer on, and then we're gonna start. Well, actually, no, we're gonna finish the face because I want to powder this before it starts to crumble and get real bad for me. So let's put some contour on. She is not bronzed in the pictures that I've been looking at. It doesn't look like she's got a ton of actually, I mean, like I could make the argument that she's got quite a bit of contour on, but it kind of is part of the whole look. So I'm gonna get some contour and at least the liquid contour that I'm gonna use, and then we're gonna step it up once we get to our powders. So now we're going to use contour. And I'm using my Halo Glow from e.l.f. My contour in the color Fairlight. Now, her face is longer and skinnier than mine and more angular. So I'm going to do my contour more angular, um, but not full. The thing is, like, she still has a feminine face. She doesn't have like a masculine face, but she has a more angular face. So some of the things are going to look similar to what I would do for my masculine contouring, but it's still very feminine on her. So why I felt the need to say that, we may never know. She does have a fairly skinny nose, and I don't like to do that with cream or liquid bronzer. Uh, I just find it gets really muddy. Some people do it really well. Um, And for her jaw, like, I mean, granted, I mean, we have the most different jaws that are possible, but she has a much more pronounced chin, chin? What the? So I'm gonna put my jawline actually a little bit up higher to kind of create the illusion that I have more of a jaw to work with than I really do, because let's be honest, nothing to write home about. But keeping those jawbones and the contour um, high is important. Don't put them, well, I would not suggest putting them down like in the hollows of your cheek because um, it's not my favorite look to begin with. And then also with her makeup, um, she focuses on how high her um, cheekbones are. I was like, what's the word? What's the word? So I'm going around the forehead, keeping this really high. Now, a lot of this will be covered by the eye makeup, but there's still this little bit that's going to peek out. And that's why I think it's important to do contour with this makeup. I'm using the same beauty sponge. I mean, that's kind of my MO, but and then I like to do, if I try to elongate my face, I like to do it in this kind of section right here because my face is rounder. It's not as round as it used to be, but um, my face is rounder. So putting a line kind of right in this section, like I did here, helps elongate the face and helps recess this part right here. So kind of see the difference from side to side. Know what that mouth noise was. Okay. Now I'm trying to remember. Yeah, I was like, I don't think she has a cleft chin. I was like, something in my brain is telling me to double check because that, and it's really easy to make a cleft chin. You just do a little contour, you put a little highlight on the side if you want, but it's very easy to make that. It's a very distinguishing facial feature if someone does have it. Okay, so I think we're pretty good on the cream contour, and now it's time for powder. Now I'm still gonna powder like it's going out of style because that's just how I like to do my makeup. You don't have to powder this much, but I'm just going to set everything with translucent powder, um, immediately wipe off everything in places that I tend to get dry, which really like lately is actually the places coincidentally that I am breaking out right now. And then any places where I get oily, which I'm not going to get oily here, but or that tend to crease, I'm going to let that makeup sit on a little bit longer before letting all the wiping off all the powder. So I'm going to do that off camera because I've done it like 100 times on a camera, so I don't feel like anybody cares to see it. So see you in a sec. Okay, so now that I've powdered and removed the powder from my face, it's still super in my hair, but whatever. So the creams have been powdered down, but now I'm going to put some creams on top of it. And actually, in a little bit. I'm going to put um, some powder contour on in the places that I put my cream contour. Now I'm going to use the same size brush that I normally do, which I normally use like a taper brush like this. It's my favorite style because you can apply it with precision and then blow it out as much as you want. I use a fairly dark cool tone. This is actually the darkest, I think, cool tone uh, contour that this is the Lunatic Labs, and it's just their single refill. Um, but it is uh, perfect. So I got some on my brush. Gonna get the excess off of my hand just so I can build it, even though I'm gonna want it fairly dark for this because that's what she has. And I'm going to, because of our differences in face shapes, I'm going to want more precise application than sometimes I do. Sometimes I'll just buff it on, do big circles, call it a day. But here I really want to do small little circles like that. Especially here, this is where it's the most prominent. And then you can start blending out in bigger circles to blend it, because this is going to be right on the outside of um, all of the eyeshadow. And then right where we came down, we just have like a little bit on our brush. We're going to kind of bring a little bit of that color down here. We don't need a lot of it. And then we can go on the forehead a little bit more aggressively. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. It's going to give a really lifted cheekbone look. Circles start to get a little bit bigger as we want to blow out that color a little bit more. And it's going to kind of curve like this. The more angular, the more kind of square and rectangular you get in the shape of the face. If you kind of do this sweep shape, then it's less harsh and is that's a little bit more natural for most people's faces. And then it's also uh, um, a little bit more feminizing to kind of bring it in a little bit. But it's all about how you like to apply it. And then for the jawline, I'm not going to do too much because it still looks like you can see a lot of hers. And just to kind of, I'm just going to kind of reinforce the shape that I did earlier without too much color on my brush. Could not find it, so I'm going to use a small brush. This is a little less fluffy, a little bit more paddly, but kind of somewhere in between. I'm going to get just a little bit of the color, be, more than nothing. And then start to just gently add a little bit of color to the side. I mean, you can already see on this side of my face how there's just a little bit more color, and it's not too much. Now, I am noticing some of the mask pilling up a little bit. It's not my favorite. It's not it's doing great work in a lot of places, and then it's filling up in other places a tiny, tiny bit. And the thing is, you don't want to start picking at where it's pilling up, because you will start to peel up the rest of the makeup. So you kind of have to kind of brush it out of the way and just hope for the best. So really, I want to, because I already have a fairly narrow nose, I don't need to narrow all of my nose that much. I just want to bring in the end of my nose to be a little bit more pointed. And then what I like to do, so it's not really much of a change. I don't like contouring my nose that much. Just like to bring in the color, but not really much else. And then I put a little bit on the sides of my nose, because I feel like if you don't, then it just looks like you just have like this straight thing in the middle of your face, and it just doesn't look right to me. So this kind of helps even it out to me, and then put like a little bit of color right there. So not quite her nose, but I'm not trying to look exactly like her. I'm just doing my best, y'all. Um, okay, so now we are going to apply some cream colors to help our eyeshadow stick and stand out more. Okay, so I'm going to use that Athena palette that I have, and I'm going to start kind of stamping the colors around to give a nice base for the powder eyeshadow to stick to, so it's nice and bright. I'm going to use a fluffy brush so that it just puts a thin coat of that cream down. And so I'm going to start with the lightest color and I'm going to move to the darkest. So with her makeup, it is the yellow that is the lightest and it's kind of around the edges of the makeup. So here, and then you can kind of use the fluff, natural fluff of the brush to kind of press it in and around. And then you can always start smaller. Always apply less and then you can apply more later. It's harder to go the other way. So that's kind of the general shape of the yellow that I'm applying. And it doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the good thing about this makeup is that it's not perfect. So if you kind of look at the makeup, it looks like both of her eyes are like very beautifully and artfully bruised, and I think that might be what they were going for. And so it's like badass bruise, but like still gorgeous, obviously. Um, and so, because it's got all the colors of bruising, it's got the yellow and oranges and reds and blacks and purples. And so you really get that like bruised effect. And having each side have just like a subtle difference. Um, and again, that's where the not having them be perfect is part of it. You're kind of working from the outside in of the bruise of whatever. No, I'm not getting too close to my eyebrow because I want that to be really stark and I can do a little bit more control with a small eyeshadow brush than this whatever this is supposed to be brush. And if you have more cheek area to work with or less cheek area to work with, you can kind of adjust this look to fit your features better, but also just make a big old black eye on each eye, but make it bright. And keep in mind that this is all cream, so if you're like, I did too much this color, that color in the cream stage, when you're doing your powders, you can really adjust it to be however you want. Just this is really pretty. I'm feeling this a lot. And this can also help kind of create structure, like it can create like your cheekbone if you're like, oh well my cheekbone would bruise really badly if I got hit. You can use that as a guideline of what like where your bruise would be, the worst, and kind of restructure your face that way, different way than contouring and highlighting. And I have a true purple or violet, but I'm actually going to use this kind of burgundy color. It's kind of that I think will be better for uh, bruising colors because it has like a little bit of that red tone in it. Um, and I think that that'll look really nice. And instead of like pulling her makeup up a lot, it's actually pretty dark under here. There's like a little, like, all over here. And also, like, not, like, I want it to be fairly blended, but it doesn't have to be super blended, especially, I mean, where you can really see that it's just not as um, even. It kind of gives a little bit more character to the makeup. And then we're going to go in with the black, and that's kind of the final cream stage. And it's going to be the hardest for color to show up on this. So just keep in mind that you want to kind of keep this exactly where you want it and not let it get out of hand. So just a little bit of black is going to go a long way. Now, with the black, it looks less like a bruise and more like smudge mascara. So that's going to be kind of more directly under the eye and on top of the lid. Okay, so that's going to be the base of our colors. These colors are fairly vibrant, but we can get them more vibrant because what we've been doing this whole time has been diffusing them. And what we're going to do next is just kind of amp them up with the powder, like the powder colors that match them. Okay, that's part of the brush. So I'm just going to put that out of my mouth. Let's make it. Okay, so first I'm taking this yellow and I'm going to get a fluffy brush to apply it with. Okay, so I'm going to apply this, use this fluffy brush to apply this yellow, and I'm going to go over the spots that are sticking out that I want to remain yellow. And this is going to blend more easily into the powders that you had on before you put the colored creams or the eye look, and it's going to stick to any of the creams, but it's going to stand out most on the yellow cream. So it's kind of like we made a guideline. So there's some places that I didn't put the yellow cream, but I'm like, you know what? It would look really nice to have the yellow right there. So I'm gonna put the yellow there. Brow bone would be bruised and fairly yellow. Also, keep in mind skin tones. Like if you're, you know, uh, kind of how bruises show up on your skin tone, and you can modify this for literally anyone. If again, if anyone's doing this look, I don't know. feel like this would be like a really good Halloween costume if you are into wrestling or you just want to look hot. Okay, next is orange. Is this orange? Yeah. It looks a little red. Now, the thing is, normally when we do bruises and that type of makeup, we're not trying to look gorgeous. But so the more uneven, the more natural it looks and stuff like that. With this, it's going to be kind of finding that balance of having it be uneven, um, and having it be symmetrical and pretty, which we don't normally. I say we, like, again, we're doing this kind of makeup all the time. You might be. I mean, I've done my share, my lion's share of cruise makeup. But so this one's more violet purple. So I'm gonna put this in some places, but I don't want it to turn up to like purple or pink. I think it'll look good over the places that were kind of that more like maroonish kind of color. And then I can get in a little bit closer to my brow. And before I go in with the black, I'm going to go in with some of the previous colors and just kind of layer a little bit more so that, it looks a little bit more, whatever I want it to look like. Now, her makeup, I've looked at it from multiple angles and like watched videos of it, and it looks like it's primarily matte, but the kind of streak she's got coming from underneath her eye, I think would look really good shimmery. So that's the only purposeful change that I'm gonna make to it. Um, because I just think that would really help it stand out because it stands out really nicely, and I just want to make sure it. Now I'm going to apply the black, and her black is quite a bit darker. And we don't want to have fallout into places that we don't want the black, so make sure you're tapping off your black. Right, with the heavy black lid. And there's more black where that came from. See, her black of her shadow is like so close to how dark her eyebrows are. I feel like I should put like a little bit of black in my brows just to honor that. Yeah, I like that better. Just a little bit to kind of change the tone. And I'm going to take this brush that I've been applying the rest of the colors with and move the black around. Want it to be kind of messy. But not pull the eye down because it's really easy to be like just dragging everything down. So kind of very intentionally placing it, kind of making it look just like messy. And it looks like, so I'm going to need some black liner. Um, I can't tightline my eyes. I've tried so many times over the years. It's just not even possible for me and my tiny watery eyes. So, um, you know, white and green. I'm going to take a little bit of the purple and I'm going to work around the edges of this to kind of give it a little bit more personality because I'm not really. Yeah, I like that better. Okay. So I feel like that's pretty good for the eyes before we line them. So I'm going to go ahead and get a liner and line underneath into my waterline. I almost forgot the orange kind of ear uh, moments from the makeup. So I think I'm going to do those in a little bit because I'm also going to do the lips. So the lips look like a pretty natural pink color, and then they have these spots of orange and like pink on them. So I'm going to get kind of some colors that I'll use for. I have to find a pink color because I really don't have many pink colors. Pink anything. It's not my thing. So let me find some colors for that. Okay, so going to use this to fill in my lips. This is a little bit more peachy, I guess, than the color that she had, but only slightly. Okay, and then I'm going to use this brush for the orange from the eyes first. See, like the shimmer just shows up. I mean, I could have used like a setting spray or something on a mat, but I just thought that this would look nice. And it's pretty big, which I imagine looks good for the Night of Champions. You're gonna need things to be big and noticeable and pop. And then I'm gonna go and from like the inner corner, it looked like there's a little bit right there. Nice. Nice. And I don't think it needs any. Actually, might put like a little red, like a dark red behind it, or like next to it, just so it looks like it has a little bit more dimension. Because hers is very dimensional. Whereas this, like, if I kind of move out of the light, it doesn't have a lot of dimension right there. I want it to, so I'm gonna kind of just a little bit to give it a little bit of that movement. It doesn't need to be a lot of color or as thick as the tier track or whatever, but it just gives a little bit of dimension. Okay, cool, like that. And then on the lips, because there's a little bit coming off the lips as well. And then there's like a little pink, at least on this side of her mouth, that I can see that kind of curves up, like a little bit of like a Joker-esque smile. Now, this is different from her normal makeup that I've seen. And I am going to put lashes on because I feel like this look would really be suited for that. Okay, this pink isn't showing up. Probably could have put some cream on that to make it brighter, but didn't want to make it too bright and also forgot about it. So I'm going to put some lashes on and then I think we're going to be done with the look. So I put my lashes on. I didn't push them up and out as much as I normally do. I kept them fairly straight and just pushed them up a little bit to kind of more mimic her eye shape and this very like just like badass like straight on look that she's got instead of this like doe-eyed. Like that's not the look. That's not what we're going for today. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I had a lot of fun recreating this. If there's anyone else you want me to do makeup like them, I would be happy to try. But I had a good time, and yeah, so I hope you enjoyed today's makeup, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.